Hi, it's Bumbleberry. Welcome back. And now we're gonna go and have our adventures with our lady friend Diana. Except this time we're going for her fiance, James.
I don't want to say it doesn't matter what happens to the princess. But I will. I guess. Naomi and Suzu looked at me and kept my eyes to Diana. I was the mermaid. I wasn't gonna let the princess take my prince away.
Oh? And why does it not matter?
The story isn't about the princess. The story is about the mermaid and the prince.
But that is exactly my point. While the story talks about while we are all fixated with this love story, we
Blah, blah, blah. That's not true.
Not true.
The trade-off of becoming human was marrying the prince or turning into sea foam. However, she was also given the choice to kill the prince and turn back into a mermaid. The mermaid didn't because she loved him and sacrificed herself for that love. That is a story worth telling, not some princess getting her way, but of a tragedy that had befallen a girl who only wanted love. That's cute. That's nice. James. Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks.
James, who is...
It then dawned on her.
One of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is James?
The oldest one. I felt myself nod in compliance. The oldest? She giggled before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? The eldest son with you?
It was partly my own decision to reply this time as I nodded. Diana let a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me.
All right, then. Well, if it's the eldest son you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
It feels so awkward because she's the one who was supposed to marry him. She chuckled before kissing my nose. Energy zapped. Pum pum! Trust who? I looked at him, unsure of what was going on, which is exactly how I am, but I nodded. If this was the only way to learn, then this was my chance to know. Is Damien gonna show me? Yep. Boom! We know all this. James is secretly the demon prince! Look at his nice little horns! After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, I'd be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Stud muffin? Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was James, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. Good. Ooh, how do you feel?
Amazing! Does it matter what I say in these things? I don't think so. Fine. He ran his hand through my hair, examining my face with a soft sadness.
I'm sorry this is all happening to you. I really wish there was something I could do to fix all of this.
James, it's not your fault.
No, if we never came, then you'd never be targeted by either Malix or Diana.
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear anymore. James, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I cupped his cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole thing. Diana was desperate, and she'd hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I was curious. So, James, you're a demon prince? He twirled a strand of hair around his finger, staring at it.
Yes, I am. I was.
Oh, was.
I was a demon prince when I lived in the Abyssal Plains. I didn't enjoy a single minute of being the heir. The only moments I truly enjoyed were when I was with my brothers. Thus, I left with them to come here.
What was it like while you were there?
Well, other than consistent studying and training to be a resilient leader and all-around ruthless lord, it was bland. I never truly knew what freedom was until I was excused from my sessions.
James looked at me with a thoughtful look on his face. I stared back, wondering what was going through his mind. He then smiled before taking off his glasses and placing them on me. I want to see a picture of this. I was surprised, but instead of seeing him, I saw dark gold and purple magic swirl in front of my eyes through the glass. Uh-oh. I was back in the demon castle. I looked around, feeling stuck in place, but my eyes instantly landed on a demon version of James. He was sitting out on the throne in the main hall, reading a book with an intense expression. It was kind of cute to see, but he read in silence.
You'll wear out your eyes if you read too much.
Ah, what a funny voice. James looked up from his book to see a figure materialize in front of him. It was an older woman with a black cloak and aged horns. I could see she had power, though, and it gave me shivers to look at her.
Sirona, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the Lord gathering with my father?
I should, yes. But I had to stop by and see the Demon Lord's favorite son before I head in.
I am honored. However, I must apologize and return to my reading.
Of course, of course. Wouldn't want to make the Demon Lord angry now, would you?
I could see James' eye twitch a bit at her comment. However, James simply bowed his head and went back to his book in silence. Sirona shook her head and let out a chuckle.
What will you do when you become the Demon Lord? It's such a big responsibility.
James looked up once again, confused at the question. Sirona simply smiled and began to walk away.
Think about that.
What is your problem? James and I watched her walk away, both with us with the same surprised and confused expression. I looked back to see James press his lips together and stare at the floor. Anyone could tell that he was lost, unsure of how to even answer that to himself. It was strange to see him in a form of weakness, jostled at the simple question that was more than it appeared. James closed his eyes and closed the book on his lap. It was then that I noticed the tired circles under his eyes. He had been working himself to the bone with his training and reading. When was the last time that he slept? I could feel James in the real world gently slide the glasses from my face and place them back on his. It took me a second to recenter my vision, but then looked at James, who smiled at me.
It was then that I decided to find my brothers. Little did I know that they were wanting me to come on a trip that would make me leave my entire realm to be in a new world.
I stared up at him, surprised, before bringing my hand gently back onto his cheek and running a thumb softly under his eye. He looked healthier and a lot less tired than when I saw him in the vision. Something about that made me happy. James gently leaned into my hand, closing his eyes and relaxing. He then slightly smiled, trying to joke.
So, how does it feel to hold the affections of an ex-demon prince?
I hold your affections. I stared, feeling my cheeks glow red in surprise and embarrassment, but I smiled and giggled slightly, running my thumb back and forth along his cheek gently. I have to say I'm flattered to think you ran away from that life. James forward, making me stop moving my thumb as he stared at me.
I can promise you, that was no life to live.
But it was your home.
A home is where you can be yourself, not tied to your duty.
I guess that's true. James gently ran his hand along my cheek, gingerly outlining the edge of my eye and ear with his thumb.
Home is where all I have to do is care about the ones close to me.
Oh, and you care about your brothers, and about your new lady friend. James? James smiled and gently leaned in, kissing my forehead. I smelt a fall shiver. No, I felt a small shiver run down my spine from his kiss, noting that he sneakingly took some energy from me in that little kiss.
No, you need to rest. You're not fully recovered. You might as well rest until dinner is ready.
He smiled and gently pressed me back down on the bed, leaning his forehead on mine. I'm gonna steal one back. Achoo! Out of playful fun, I lifted my head and gently kissed James, softly laying a hand on his cheek to keep his face close. James stared in surprise before kissing me back, caressing my cheek, slightly melting at the touch of our lips. A soft sigh. I am having issues with reading today. A soft sigh escaped his lips before he slowly pulled away with a smile. He gently licked his lips, making me go red in the face at the simple gesture, and let out a satisfied hum before nuzzling my forehead.
Rest.
With that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress. Anna, I'm very busy. Something wasn't right. I felt it in my core. She must be here. Thought of her in my house infuriated me beyond belief. I had to make sure she wasn't here. I rolled out of bed and quickly left my room, wandering the halls and listening closely. She was a demon, but I was listening very intently. There was no way she would have been able to sneak up on me. I know you're here. Where are you? I could feel myself growl. It wasn't a matter of fear that she'd take away the boys anymore, but her very existence had lit a fire of rage within my gut, which only grew as each day went by. This feud was getting on my nerves, and I knew it would not end well for one of us. I wasn't going to lose to that demon witch.
Diana, what are you doing here?
Are they in the bathroom again? I'm going to beat some people up. My heart stopped. Diana was with James. My mind flew into slow motion, playing fake images of Diana trying to seduce James into my head to further fan the angry flame inside of me. I would be so mad if this lady was, legit trying to take away my man. I understand that they were engaged before and whatnot, but, dude, he escaped to another universe so that he wouldn't have to marry you. I understand that's complicated, but just let them be and take over the universe by yourself. I instinctively followed James's voice and approached the study. The door was open just a crack, wide enough to peek in without being noticed. Oh, they're in the library. By the bookshelf, Diana was in one of the armchairs looking at him.
Silly man, why do you think I'm here?
To be fairly honest, I don't really care.
I'm hurt, wounded, truly. You don't care that I came to this pathetic little world just for you?
I'm sorry, let me make this clear. You are not welcome here, so I suggest leaving.
Is that any way to speak to your fiancé?
Diana wasn't his fiancée anymore. Why was she speaking as if the arrangement was still on?
Our arrangement was broken when I left the Abyssal Plains. You are no longer my fiancé.
What a stubborn man. Just like your father. Well, you should know. He decreed that should you return home, you'll maintain your status and keep your birthright.
James would be the heir again? Why?
I don't want it.
You don't want it? You'd give up the...
I said I don't want my damned birthright! What birthright? It's imprisonment! A life sentence! Am I not allowed to be selfish for once in my lifetime?
He's getting all glowy and angry.
It's your reason for your birth. Do you not realize what you have?
I could feel James' anger emanating from the crack in the door, fighting with Diana's tension. They were both matched, staring at each other down.
I know exactly what I had. That's all behind me. I'm done with that. To hell with my birthright.
To hell with your birthright. You truly think you can decide that? You are the first son of the Demon Lord. You are the heir to the throne, and I am your bride, the next Demon Queen.
See, why is he a lord and she's a queen? Why was Diana so desperate? It irked me to see how insane she was to get James to return.
Raystrau, you...
How dare he use her name? All of a sudden, James ran at Diana and pinned her to the floor by her neck. I felt the need to jump in, but I knew he wasn't trying to do anything romantic. He wouldn't. His voice sent shivers down my spine as they continued to speak with his hand at her throat.
And what gives you the right to use my name like that? Only demons of the same blood are permitted to use each other's true names.
That's what I thought.
When our families arranged our marriage, I was given permission to use your name as mine. That's what you are, James. You are my husband. I am your queen. You are my Raystrau. I am your Izeur.
What? He was growling in anger, like he was ready to bite Diana's head off like a wolf would a small deer. I felt myself growl quietly to myself as well. However, James pulled himself off the floor and returned to the opposite side of the room, away from the prone Diana. How come she never told me her name?
I do not belong to you. I belong to her.
The human girl? You must be joking. A human like her can't possibly provide you what you need. She's a human. You're a demon.
I felt the urge to storm in and shut her mouth. It would give away my position, but I was growing extremely tired of Diana. Let's do it! Now we know we have to barge in every time. I quick stepped into the room, throwing the door to the study wide open. Dan and James looked at me in surprise as I glared daggers at Diana. Get out.
Well, well, little human. You're awfully nosy in business that doesn't concern you.
It does concern me.
Does it? I don't think a human would understand the importance of this affair.
You're asking him to leave to be someone he doesn't want to be. That's not going to happen.
Oh? And what makes you so sure about that?
I love him. Yee! Dana stared in shock at my exclamation. Was it not what she expected? I didn't care what she expected. I wasn't going to lose the man that I had grown to love.
You love him?
Yes, I love him. Her lips twitched, the edges curling into an amused smirk as she stared at me.
So what? A human's love isn't enough to understand the situation. A demon can never reciprocate human feeling.
He read about it. James stepped forward and put an arm around me, pulling me close to his body.
I love her.
Oh, I saw the confidence Diana had shatter in her eyes as she stared at James and his words. I could see the struggle in her face to try and find some weakness in James. In me. Anything.
A demon love a human? Impossible.
Hey, you love
It's
me.
only impossible because you don't have the capability to love. This woman has given so much to shelter me and my brothers and has given me her heart to cherish. I'd rather care for this woman for the rest of my days than spend an eternity on the demon throne. Especially if the queen is you.
That's so mean. She physically felt the sting of James' words in her chest. She had lost. I could see it in her eyes. Diana's eyes grew dull as she glared at me and James. It seemed almost uncharacteristic of her, yet it was something I wasn't surprised to see come from her face.
Very well. Fine. Valet.
And with that, Diana faded into the ground in a purple pentagram, crossing her arms and looking almost upset. James and I were then left alone, left with the silence of the room. I finally let out the air I was unconsciously holding in my chest, relaxing from the ordeal. James stepped to me and held me gently, surprising me.
Are you okay?
I nodded in response, unable to speak so immediately after being surprised. James let out a sigh, relaxing in the embrace. I gently placed my hands around him, returning the embrace slightly. I could hear his heartbeat. He held me close in his arms, and I felt safe beyond words.
I wasn't lying, you know.
You love me? I looked up at him, wondering what he meant by what he said. James smiled down at me, moving a strand of my hair from my face to look down at me.
I love you. I love every single fiber of you. Your mind, your body, your soul. You're quite possibly the most interesting woman I have ever met. You always find your way into my mind.
I stared wide-eyed, blushing like a maniac. Was this real? No way, this couldn't be real. Was James confessing to me? Confessing his love for me? He smiled and gently caressed my cheek. The warmth of his hand invited me to nuzzle into it, and I closed my eyes. This wasn't a dream. My heart was pounding to the point where I was sure James could hear it. He gently leaned in, closing his eyes. He stopped, however, remaining just a mere torturous inch away from my lips. He wanted me to show my feelings for him. He had left himself open for me to kiss him or leave him empty. The power I had was unbelievable. Kiss him, kiss him, kiss him, kiss him, mwah! I loved him and wanted to give him exactly what he wanted. I gently leaned in, letting my lips finally touch his gingerly. James let out almost a pleasured purr against my lips before wrapping both of us in his arms around my waist, pulling me close to him. I moved my arms up around his neck, feeling the kiss between us deepen to a heated height. My chest was pounding, making me feel and see fireworks in my mind. James was everything I desired. He was the man that I wanted, demon or not. It was also supernatural to fall in love with someone so quickly. Maybe it was the sense magic I was thrown into. Maybe it was Cupid playing with my heart. Either way, I found myself melting at the thought of him being with me. I found myself combing my fingers through James's hair, making the man holding me softly tremble at my touch. He gently nibbled on my lower lip, asking me to deepen the kiss between us even further. I easily teased him before finally opening my mouth slightly. His tongue gently danced with mine as one of his hands slid up my back and cradled my head. He gently leaned my body back, making me cling to him as the heat of our kiss rose higher and higher. Gently, though, James slowed the kiss down and pulled away, staring down at me. His eyes burned for me, wanting me to melt and buckle in his arms. I could feel myself melt already. James opened his mouth to speak, but a very small blush ran along his cheeks. He was reduced to shy silence. I stared as he tried to find the words to say in my eyes. I knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't need energy, though, right?
No,
I stared wide-eyed, feeling a blush on my cheeks grow. He didn't say anything more, but I knew what words would have followed if he continued. He wanted me. I was stunned. Was I that appealing to him? Was his passion really that deep for me? James lifted his head and kissed my forehead, losing the blush and finally being able to speak.
If you don't want to, we don't have to.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I could feel my mind go numb and purr at the idea. A moment with an incubus. He was a demon of sex, the purest form of lust and desire. My world would rock, and I would enjoy every second of it. At the same time, I was indeed inexperienced. Diana wasn't wrong when she claimed me to be innocent. Did I want to give that innocence to him? Especially this early? I found myself forgetting the words yes and no. What could I say to him? I knew that then I knew what I wanted, but how to say it without breaking the moment. Also, did you guys know if you say hold me, like you can just skip the sex scene, but you still get the happy ending? Which I think is really cool. But just for the, I don't want to say 100% completion kind of thing, but just, we're going to get the extra little photo. We're going to have sexy time. I'll put the skip button too if you guys need it. I couldn't believe the 2 words that came out of my mouth. It made the most sense to tell him yes. I needed him. I wanted him. The 2 words must have finally made something in him break. James quickly resumed the kiss with me, to which I eagerly kissed back and pulled him closer to my body. The heat of my chest was craving his touch, and I needed to deny any space between us. James lowered a hand and brought one of my legs around his waist as he lowered his other hand to my waist. Without breaking the kiss, I gripped to his shoulders and jumped off my feet, wrapping both of my legs around him and making him hold me up. Hopefully he's strong. His touch kept raising my need for him higher and higher, bringing my mind to the desire that was burned in the back of my mind. James held me close, kissing me deep and making him moan against his lips. I could feel our bodies sink to the ground, noticing a gentle glow penetrate through my closed eyelids. Ooh, we went to the bed. I felt our bodies fall onto the familiar bed with James leaning on top of me. Ah, hello! I stared up at James as he pulled his face slowly away from mine. His eyes were almost glowing in the dark room, piercing into my soul and making me shiver in anticipation. He effortlessly removed his gray sweater and red tie, leaving him in his tightly fitted white button-up over me. I could practically feel the heat of his skin through the thin fabric. However, as he held me, I could feel the shiver of his hands. He was nervous? Was I his first? He wasn't going to show it. He wanted me to enjoy this moment, but I was afraid of screwing it up. His shivering hands showed me his emotions perfectly. I gently reached up and brought his head down, kissing him once again. I wanted him not to worry. The pleasure between us would be heavenly, and we'd get through it together. I closed my eyes and gave myself to James. My body, my mind, my soul, it all belonged to him as he held me. His body, his mind, his soul, it all belonged to me as I gave into the embrace. His kisses and fingers over my skin would forever engrave themselves into my memory as our passion rose through incredible heights. Our breaths and moans to each other equally sounded and echoed like a blissful chant we never wished to end. We kept moving, loving, feeling every inch of our bodies until we'd had enough, and I was enveloped in his embrace. Skin to skin, heartbeats matching, we held each other in the glow of the aftermath. I nuzzled my head under James's chin as he held me close.
I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too. Just to hear those words come from James's mouth made my heart flutter. To hear me answer made my soul warm in glee. I could feel both of us sink into the peaceful sleep together. It was the best sleep I had in days, and I was happy. I had love, and I had my happiness. My life was simply perfect. When I opened my eyes, I found myself staring into James's bare chest. I blushed, but I looked up to see James was still sleeping. His sleeping face made me giggle softly, but the reality of the situation made my heart flutter. I couldn't believe it. I was lying next to a man I had grown to love with all my heart. His warm embrace made me feel safe, and as the tender moment we just shared replayed in my head, I couldn't help but smile and snuggle into his chest further. Unconsciously, he held me tighter to his body, giving me more of his warmth. I didn't want to move, but then my core suddenly tightened and made me sit up without waking the man next to me. I felt my legs move, and this is Diana trying to get us to kill ourselves. No, excuse me. The rest of the story can almost be passed over. With Diana gone, my life returned to normal, with school and friends not remembering what had happened, as if magic never even appeared in my world. One thing was for certain, however. James loved me, and I loved him just as much. We had promised our lives to each other, and nothing was going to take that away from us, not even time itself. Our love was so powerful, it practically overwhelmed me with joy every time I found him holding me close every morning. That's really sweet. To think, a demon ex-prince in love with a human like me? It was unthinkable, unbelievable. It was practically impossible. But it was true. The other boys decided to leave of their own accord. They knew that my future would only need James at my side, so they decided to start their own lives in the human world. James was heartbroken at first, but understood that he had to let his brothers grow like he did. I wonder if he's going to become CEO again. He had someone new to care for now. His brothers didn't need him now that he was caring for me. I felt bad as well for being closer to James than the others, but they reassured me that I was okay and that they would remain nearby should I ever need them. I was happy for that. They made me promise, however, that I would love James for as long as we lived. That promise was instantly given. But what of my future? Well, it was kind of made for me. Before I graduated, James decided to step into the light of the Anderson Toys Company, and with the help from his demon powers and leadership charisma, he managed to influence not only the entire board, but my father as well into letting him run for CEO. I was beyond shocked. How James managed to do all that was beyond me, but when the vote was called, James had taken over the company I was destined to have. He vowed to respect the wishes of the late CEO and help the company become an even grander company. For a demon, it was simple to make a company grand. My grandfather would have been proud to see how James helped it shine. With the CEO position filled, my father had no choice but to let me decide my future, which made me happy beyond compare. No longer would I have the future scaring me into a corner. I could choose life on my own. That being said, I was still scared of where the future was going to take me. What did I want to do? Did I want to help James build the company? Did I want to venture off on my own? James reassured me that he would support me and help me through whatever I wanted to do. Deciding that I came first before the company he had to come to reign over, I was grateful that he would never forget that promise. I was happy, and nothing could shake me down from that happiness. One night, a good couple of years after the boy and I had met, I had a moment to myself, so I sat in my room and I took in all that had happened as if it was all a dream. The demons, the devils, the magic. It was all surreal to believe. It frightened me to think that it could all have been a dream. The warm feeling in my heart reminded me that it was all real. The demons, the magic, the love I had, all real. I smiled as I held my hands to my chest, relishing the feelings dancing within my soul. Uh-oh, he doesn't have a voice. He was standing in the doorway, cross-armed with a playfully, I'm not in skip mode anymore. I smiled and blushed a bit. Yeah, I'm okay. I was just remembering how we met and stuff.
Were you now?
Yeah, and I wouldn't change anything. James smiled and walked over to me, gently taking my hands and kissing over the knuckles sweetly.
Come, I have a surprise for you.
Is it cake? Is it pancakes? Because I still want pancakes. I raised an eyebrow. A surprise? What the heck was he plotting? James simply chuckled and kissed my forehead.
I promise you'll love it.
Deciding to go along with it, I nodded and stood up. James gently took my arm under his and led me out of my bedroom. I stared in shock at the path of golden rose petals lining the floor, creating a path away from my door. James led me down the golden rose path as if this was all a part of his plan. James, what is going on? James didn't answer. He continued to lead me down the stairs of the lobby where the path wound into the living room. I stared in shock as I saw the table set with candles and a large bouquet of golden roses decorating the middle. James, I feel sort of underdressed, you know? Wear the sexy dress again.
There's nothing wrong with how you look now. You're beautiful no matter what clothes you are in.
Oh, I couldn't help but let a red blush paint my face, making James chuckle once again. He led me to my seat, where I was greeted with a plate of shrimp pesto on the table. James!
Remember what that is?
Of course, that, sir, is a shrimp pesto dish. James laughed and smiled. I smiled back up at him, feeling nostalgia run over my heart. Giddy happiness bubbled as I looked up at the man I had loved. You made it when we first met, when you and your brothers were apologizing for getting bloody in the lobby.
Well, it was more than that we had to apologize for, but that was the gist of it, yes.
Isn't it gist? I don't know. How could I forget? What's this all about? No, how could I forget? What's this all about? James gently bent forward and kissed my forehead sweetly, making me giggle slightly.
You are such a wonderful woman. I can't believe that I can love someone this much. You have changed my whole world, and now you have become my everything. I practically get scared waking up every morning in case this is all just a blissful dream.
Oh, James. Before I could speak further, James gently placed his fingers on my lips, hushing me before he caressed my cheek. I nuzzled into his hand, almost purring at the feeling of warmth against my cheek.
I love you, and I will never stop loving you. No matter what comes our way, I promise to be there for you as long as time keeps moving. I want to be yours forever.
Oh my gosh, look how adorable he is. Before I could realize what was going on, James slowly got down on one knee beside me and took out a small black box. He lifted the top to reveal a beautiful ring with a purple gem crowned in gold and purple embellishments. I stared, my mind instantly freezing in surprise at the sight. I felt my eyes water with the immense feelings bursting inside my chest.
Will you, Miss Anderson, marry me?
Aww. Sure, why not? I was speechless. I felt myself break and start to weep in joy. Was this happening? This had to be a dream. I mentally begged every single deity in the sky never to wake me up if that was the case. I fought my tears, trying to speak to answer his question. I didn't want to leave him in the dark, and I didn't want him to be on the ground for long. Yes, I will. I stood up, crying and jumping in joy as James smiled the biggest smile I had ever seen on his face and slid the ring onto my ring finger. As it finally ended its upward journey to the crevice of my finger, James stood up and took me into his arms, kissing me and sealing my words. I had gained the heart of a demon, no, of a man I loved. I vowed to cherish him and love him for the remainder of my days and beyond. Could a demon love a human forever? I knew James would. And that was my happily ever after. End James's proposal. T. New password unlocked. Demon War. It's not new. I've already been proposed to. Maybe they didn't know because I had done it separately from Steam before. But we got the true ending. Innocent ignorance. Okay, so what did you guys think? I thought it was so much fun. I like James. I think he's a classy guy. I'm kind of glad to get back with the boys because, you know, we hadn't hung out with them in a while, and it was cute to see them all fight and get their backstories and whatnot. Although their sexy picture is not as sexy. Well, I guess, unbuttoning the shirt's kind of sexy. But, like, look at Eric's sexy time picture. Like, the naked. It's different. And, like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's because Eric is more like, hello, I'm sexual. James is more like, hi, I do sexy things, but I like my clothes. So what did you think of James? And who should I do next? I am thinking, well, it sounds kind of silly. I was thinking either Matthew or Damien, because I know a lot of you use Sam your first playthrough anyway. So we'll see what I do next. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stay sweet and let me know what you think in the comments or leave a like. It's like, you know, you made me a pasta dish or something. I don't know. But stay sweet and have a great day.